Hey, welcome to Mullen Stock. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads. And also remember that this is not a financial advice video. Now let's start. So today I want to talk to you about more. So this upcoming week, as far as some expectations, where things might be going and some PR that might be coming out. So I'm going to go over all that. So based on where it is at, it's at $0.43. So very, very close to the all-time and 52-week low. As far as some expectations coming from a broader economic standpoint, there's two things that could really work in Mullen's favor, potentially, one of which is on Tuesday. So CPI data coming out, and if inflation is showing as obviously going down, and it being curbed, this is where potentially you might see a little bit more of a rally within the broader economy, and hopefully from that Mullen will be able to go up. In addition to that, on Wednesday there is also the Feds are going to be making their interest rate decision. Forecast is that it's going to be flat. But I have seen some people talking on how hypothetically it could be cut by 0.25%. So 25 basis points. So in reality it could happen, and if so, then definitely I think the market will go on a very good rally as a result of that. But going into next week, I hate to say it, the sentiment is just very poor, and especially over the weekend. A lot of people have been really looking at David-specific things and just saying kind of DTF. So of course I'm just going to go over all that again. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence, including everything that I do say, and one of which is this. So some things that obviously people are talking about is him selling. So these are all the insider transactions that have occurred for Mullen, and more specifically, they're bringing up right here. So these transactions on February the 15th, that was filed on the 16th. But it does show that he did sell 3 different things, one of which I guess was a gift. So you can't really find out who it was gifted to. But 5 million shares were gifted transaction code J for other 1 million shares at the price of $0.29. But there was one that is really standing out, a straight-up sell of 14.94 million at 31 cents at the time of this happening. I actually did bring this up. I got a lot of pushback at the time saying, well, you never know. He might need money for blah blah blah, whatever reason or whatever purpose, but in reality it never looks good. And like I've said in the past, I usually use Anthony Noto, who is the CEO of Sophie, as a good example. He never sells with exception. I guess for tax purposes, I think that's a more so acceptable reason why someone might potentially sell. But still, when David did sell, obviously 14 point or rounding up 15 million shares doesn't look good. Especially now that we know and can look back at some of the circumstances that have played out after that, after February the 15th, such as dilution, reverse stock split. Kind of interesting. And especially that we do know that he did have a put that he opened, I believe in July of 2022, that he only closed in April of 2023. So again, not necessarily the best image, my own opinion of course, but when it comes down to it, like I said, David is a little bit more on the hot seat this weekend, because a lot of people, so investor professor, did kind of break this down in a very easy format. But in 2022, he did get quite a lot. So he, meaning David, did get a lot of performance awards. So these are all the performance awards that he did get. So one of which was the Russell. So he got 5.5 million for Mullen being included on that, which now that we know, they're kind of getting kicked off, so it's not necessarily the best. Also got feature milestone, non-US distribution. So this one is the Mullen Go. And it's kind of funny, the Mullen Go has actually done nothing. Keep in mind, I think the selling price for the Mullen Go is around $10,000 or $12,000. And all that's been done so far is just some samples were sent to Newgate, which in case you guys don't know, Newgate is basically the equivalent of Randy Marion. So in reality, some samples were sent there, tested them out. Clearly they approved and they are selling them. But as of right now, I don't believe there's been any transactions whatsoever. It was floating around, I think 3 weeks ago, something like that. Someone reached out to Newgate and they said that there's been no sales, but they're optimistic. So I don't know if the optimistic stands for anything, but still at the end of the day, that definitely is not good considering he got $6.6 million. Keep in mind all these stock prices, everything here is pre-split, so just be aware of that. There's also the capital benchmarks. So in general, he got $30 million in stock milestone awards. So again, that's over and above his salary and bonus. Not necessarily the best considering the performance of Mullen. And I think this is one thing that a lot of people are starting to look at on companies that are just completely going down is the CEO's compensation. I know for instance, Lucid itself, that was one of the hot topics about Peter Rawlinson, when they kept messing up on production. Well, why is he getting paid so high versus a lot of other CEOs that are very kind of linked to stock performance? So it is definitely something that needs to be looked at, in my opinion, whether it be the upcoming shareholder meeting, because there might be an upcoming shareholder meeting, an emergency one shortly that I've kind of referred to in a previous video. But still, like I said, I think just a sentiment going into next week isn't necessarily the best, especially on Monday. There's going to be that 45 million in dilution, and a lot of people are saying, well, what does that mean? For the stock price, in my opinion, who, like I said, isn't a financial advisor, as soon as this does get announced, in theory, it should, and this is in theory, it should get factored into the stock price already. So it's hard to tell if it's going to cause any damage on Monday as a result of this. Because, like I said, as soon as anything in theory, any stock ever announces something, immediately it gets factored into the price, so there should be no repercussions or any additional damage. But what's happened over the last little bit, and the sentiment has just been so poor, people are just completely hammering Mullen so much more. And plus, it doesn't really help that there is no buyers. So for instance, looking here, this is the order book, and you notice how there's no green, there is no buyers, it is just a massive wall of red, because Mullen right now is kind of stuck in limbo. Like I've said in the past, people are either waiting on some production news, which I guess that is just going to be in July of 2023. There's a lot of things in limbo, so we haven't really heard about share and tell. There's just a ton of things that could potentially help the stock and help this death spiral kind of stop. But right now there has been no news, no SEC filings, nothing along those lines since May the 25th. So it has been a little bit more of an extended break in that regard. And I do feel once they do start production, then you might see a little bit more buyers happening or buying happening. But up until then, it might just continue this downtrend, which is very, very crappy in that regard. But over and above that as well, a lot of people are just waiting on the edge of their seat for Lawrence. I know some people don't want to hear about Lawrence, and I get that he's obviously promised a lot, no different than kind of David in the past. So a lot of promises have been made and not really much has been fulfilled. But Mullen has actually made this very easy for him to do the testing. So once again, I do feel that this is a good move in the right direction. And now the ball is in Lawrence's court to complete the testing and if so, complete the agreement with David and Mullen, and then hopefully we'll be able to see an agreement this week. Because I feel that if that type of PR does come out this week, it kind of does prove and validates. Lawrence claims everything that he has said because as he said in the past, they are waiting on the agreement with Mullen and Lawrence and the LLC to go through. This is where Saudi and many other contracts are supposedly waiting for that to go through. So definitely that might be the optimistic viewpoint on this week. But unfortunately, as you can already tell based on the things I've said, it is just very negative going into next week. And playing the simple fact that it's gone down 41% over the last week, it is hard for even the most bullish individuals out there to be optimistic. And that's just the name of the game, right? There's a difference between a trader versus an investor. And I think I've had some discussions with some people about this in the past. If you believe truly in Mullen what they're going to be doing, you should be classified as an investor. So bigger picture, that's what you should kind of focus on, not so much the short-term volatility versus if you are a trader then, this is where clearly I think you are staying clear of it, because there is no buyers, like I mentioned. But still going into next week, I do feel that shorts are going to be taking advantage of all of this negativity surrounding David and so forth. So I'll give you guys a quick overview of that. So based on Friday, shorts did return 3.25 million. Shares still in the threshold list. So I do believe on Monday it will be the 19th consecutive day. But 17.09% of the free floats being shorted. 35.67 million shares overall are being shorted and cost to borrow. Has been kind of flat over the last couple of days. So 134.93%. So again, it's one of those things that it's just waiting and seeing. As far as the fib levels and technical analysis, there's no point in me going over that, it's just going to be following the psychological levels. So the whole number, so around 40, 30 cents and so forth, that is going to be the big support points, vice versa. $0.50 is going to be the next big resistance, and over and above that, then around $0.63. So once again, let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. Looking at the momentum indicator, it has been below zero for a very, very long time. Shows that number of retail investors have actually been leaving. So definitely not a good sign. It looks like the last time actual investors, retail investors, were getting in was in December. So around the whole shareholder meetings, other than that, it looks like they've been slowly getting out and looking at stochastic. Like I have said, it is at one which is just completely hammered, well oversold. So if there is a good piece of news that does come out, such as maybe Lawrence or some other aspect that who knows, that might come out from Mullen itself, then this is where you could see a little bit more of a valley rally as a result. And that might cause potentially a little bit of a squeeze because on paper, Mullen has everything to have a good squeeze. So it has a high utilization, a lot of shares being shorted, high cost to borrow. But the thing is, and what has been missing, is that catalyst that people can truly believe in. That's just where we're at. So as far as some expectations going into next week, like I mentioned, I do feel that because of all the negativity, it is going to continue to trend down. It might bounce off of that 40-cent mark briefly, but if there isn't any news or potentially as well, if the inflation or CPI is higher than expected, this is also going to be very damaging to Mullen as well. Guys, that's all we have for you today. What is your opinion about Mullen stock? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.